I'm glad to welcome you to another exciting time. The subject on is commerce. In the last episode, we looked at the disadvantages of railway transport system, and we also looked at pipeline as a means of transportation. We said pipeline as a means of transportation is essentially used for the movement of gases, liquid, and petroleum products from one location to the other. And we also looked at some of the advantages and the disadvantages inherent in pipeline transportation. So today we are continuing our discussion. The topic is still transportation. So today we are looking at air transportation. Now, understand this. We said at the onset of the class that transportation constitutes an aid to trade. Air transportation will also aid trade either locally or internationally. So what is air transportation? Air transportation is a system of moving goods and passengers by air with the aid of aeroplanes, helicopters, or whatever. So when we're moving people and we're moving goods from one location to the other with an aircraft, we refer to that medium of transportation as air transportation. Air transportation has this landmark advantage over every other means of transportation, and that advantage is that it is very, very fast and comfortable. If you're traveling to London from Nigeria, within a couple of hours you're already there. There is no other means of transportation that can guarantee that kind of speed. So air transportation guarantees high efficiency in terms of speed. It's a means through which people can save valuable time that they would have wasted taking advantage of other means of transportation. However, it is expensive, and that is expected because it saves a lot of time. We therefore observe that only people of substance, as it were, are the people that can afford traveling by air. It is not accessible to all people because of the cost that is usually involved. Then it enhances commercial activities and international trade. Air transportation is not only suitable for local or domestic trade transactions, much more it is very, very useful as far as international trade is concerned, because the distances involved as far as international trade is concerned are very, very much. Talking about from Nigeria to Asia, maybe China, Hong Kong, Bangladesh, and other countries like that, the distance is usually very long, very much. And as a result of that, there is no other means of transportation that can guarantee the coverage of such massive distance within a reasonable period of time like air transportation. And therefore it aids international trade, because international trade transaction can be done very quickly within a very short period of time. People can travel from one country. In fact, people can travel all around the globe from one continent to the other within a very reasonable period of time. So what are the advantages of air transportation? The first advantage is that it is very fast. I've emphasized this a short while ago. Very, very fast. Within a very short period of time, reasonable distances could have been covered. Then suitable for perishable and fragile goods. Perishable goods are goods that are exposed or that are likely to have their economic value eroded within a very short period of time, and for such products it is therefore expedient that they be moved as quickly as possible from the point of production and conveyed to the point where they are going to be consumed, so that before they start losing their economic value, such product would have been consumed. If that is the case, it therefore implies that for such categories of commodity, they must be moved through a medium of transportation that is extremely fast. And there is no other one that is as suitable for this kind of movement like transportation by air. When you also have commodities that are fragile, that could get easily destroyed, air transportation also constitute a very, very good medium through which they can be moved so as to ensure that they are not damaged. Then it is comfortable and luxurious. It is it guarantees high degree of comfort. Even in the aircraft too, you see have different classes. You have the economy class and stuff like that. But by and large, you discover that traveling in the aircraft is very, very comfortable. It is less stressful and it is very luxurious. You feel at home. You enjoy the best of comfort even though you are traveling. Then it is suitable for long distances. It can travel very fast from one continent to the other, from Africa to Asia, from Asia to South America, from South America to Europe, whichever part of the globe you are covering within a very reasonable period of time. Such distances can be covered, and therefore it also aids international trade transaction. Then it moves on schedule. That's another advantage of traveling by air. It's not like when you go to the car park to board a bus, and when the bus is not filled up, the vehicle is not going to take off. As far as aircraft traveling by air is concerned, they move. The aircraft move on schedule, so they already have a designated time of takeoff. So people are expected to walk around that time, and you would have bought your ticket beforehand, such that it will be very easy for you just to get into the aircraft and then off the plane goes. Then it is it is useful for multi-purpose usage. We can use it to carry people. We can use it to carry cargo. It can be used for all manner of things. It is useful for internal transportation. For instance, people want to travel from Lagos to Abuja under an hour or thereabout. They are already there. The distance that would have taken about 7 to 8 hours, they have covered it under an hour. So it is useful for different purposes. It can be used to carry goods. It can be used to carry bulky, anything that you desire. Air transportation is suitable for such. Still talking about advantages of air transportation. The most interesting thing about these means of transportation is that it is not only for movement of goods and people that it is useful for. It is also useful for other things. For instance, it can be used for taking area photographs, surveying and spraying of crops with insecticide. For instance, when a very large farm, you want to spray it with insecticide, we can just put some chemicals in the aircraft. There is a device to it that can be done, and then the aircraft hovers over the farmland, and then, or the helicopter, and then the farmland or the crops are sprayed within a very short period of time. Very large expanse of land could have been suitably covered. Then also, if you want to take pictures that we'll use maybe for demographic study or for other geographical analysis, we can always use the aircraft air transportation to take such photograph. Whatever picture, whatever view that we desire, it can be appropriately captured in air, and then we'll be able to have a detailed picture and a true information of what we actually desire. However, I haven't talked about its advantages. Let's quickly run through the disadvantages of these means of transportation. Number one is that it is expensive, and because it is expensive, it reduces the volume of goods as well as the number of people that it can move from per time. Not everyone will be able to afford the cost of traveling by air. Therefore, the number of people that will be able to take advantage of this medium of transportation would have reduced drastically. So it is very expensive. People who don't have good means cannot take advantage of it. It is vulnerable to climatic changes. That is one of the most critical and sensitive disadvantages of traveling by air. At least when you travel on land and the vehicle develops a fault, you can park by the roadside. If the train breaks down on the rail track, it can be on the same spot. But this cannot be said of aircraft. If it develops a fault in the air, the next thing is a disaster. As a result of this, climatic changes is always impede on the successful completion of journeys when they are embarked on in an aircraft, because the aircraft is very, very sensitive to climatic changes. If anything happens, it could result in a crash. So this is another very, very critical disadvantage of air transportation. Then it is also not flexible, unlike road that has extensive network, that if this does not go, you can maneuver, turn back, take another route, and at the end of the day, you're still going to get to your place of destination. But for air transportation, it is not flexible, and therefore that constitutes a disadvantage. Then unsuitable for heavy and bulky goods. There are some bulky goods. Even though we can use it to carry goods, we can still use it to carry some heavy goods, but there are some types of goods that may not be suitable to be transported using the aircraft. And as a result of this also places an impediment or a limitation on its relevance to commercial transactions. High operational costs. To set up an airline is very, very expensive. To maintain an aircraft is very, very expensive. To maintain the crew of the aircraft is very, very expensive. To replace the part is very, very expensive. Everything about it is speaking high cost. So as a result of this, if care is not taken, that may inform the reason why we usually have all manner of air disasters in Nigeria, because people would try to cut down on costs. And what is supposed to be done, maybe for maybe every 50 hours that an aircraft travels, it is expected to be serviced. People, and because it is going to be very, very expensive, people may decide to manipulate or doctor it, and then instead of servicing it after 50 hours, they may decide they want to do that after 80 hours. And the implication is always disaster. And the reason why people do that is because of the expensive cost of running the system. The aircraft, everything about it is expensive. So that is a disadvantage. Then number two, it is prone to accident. We've had all manner of air crashes, and what makes air crashes more disastrous is that when it happens, it is usually very difficult to have survivors. It is very, very the impact is always very, very disastrous, and then because it flies in the air, unlike other means of transportation, wherein if a fault develops, maybe the vehicle can be parked by the roadside and then a mechanic is called to come and attend to it. But for the aircraft, nothing like that. Once it develops fault, it's coming down. Then it requires supplementary means of transportation. Because the aircraft, when it carries people, it cannot come and drop you in front of your house. It cannot drop you in your office. Therefore, it means that when you take advantage of air transportation, as expensive, as luxurious, as comfortable as it is, you would also require other means of transportation to supplement it. For instance, if you are coming into Nigeria, you just flew in and then you disembarked at the airport in Lagos, you will still need a vehicle to convey you from the airport to wherever you are heading. The aircraft will not be dropping people in front of their home. So supplementary means of transportation will be required to complete whatever service that the air transportation has provided. So it cannot exist in isolation of other means of transportation. It will always require their collaboration for it to work appropriately. So let's quickly look at water transportation. What do we mean by water transportation? It's a means of conveying people, goods from one place to another on water. And the water could be in terms of river, the sea, the ocean, and then we're using the ship or the canoe and different things to move. So when we talk about water transportation, we're simply talking about taking advantage of the surface of the water or inside it to move goods and people from one location to the other. And this is very, very critical as far as international trade is concerned. We're going to be looking at that in details later. It helps to facilitate international trade among nations, because you find out that when we're talking about movement of goods, most of the goods that we import or export, they are moved on the ship. So it means that we're taking advantage of water to move to move goods from one place to the other, and it has this advantage in the sense that it can move high volume of goods per time. So let's look at the types of water transportation that we have. We have inland water transportation. It's a type of water transport in which goods and people are moved from one place to another through the rivers, through the canals, the creeks, and lakes. As far as this is concerned, it usually operates within a country. It operates within the country's border. The rivers must be navigable. That is, it must have been dredged such that it can accommodate different ships that can be put on it, or different. Then talking about sea transportation, it ensures that cargoes and people are moved from one country to the other. That is the essence of movement on the ship. Sea transportation. So goods and people can be moved from one country to the other very cheaply. The various means of transportation by sea are what we call ocean liner, that is passenger and cargo. We have tramp liner, we have coastal liner, and we have special purpose ship. So today we've been able to look at air transportation. We said it's a very fast means of moving people as well as goods from one location to the other. We have looked at the advantages therein. Some of the advantages that it is very fast, it is convenient, it is comfortable. And then we also looked at its disadvantages. Some of the disadvantages we looked at is that it is very, very expensive and prone to accident. And that when such accidents happen, the destruction or the impact is always devastating. We also looked at transportation on water. We said transportation on water basically has to do with movement of goods as well as people from one location to the other. And we said that transportation of water is very, very significant because it helps us to facilitate rapid international trade transaction, wherein goods and people in very large volume can be moved per time. And we said, as far as this is concerned, we have different forms of vessels that can be used to move people as well as move goods from one location to the other. So as we come to the end of this episode of School on Air, I would like to leave you with this assessment. State 4 advantages and disadvantages of air transportation. And I do believe that with what we've done today, you should be able to do justice to these questions. It's been another wonderful and exciting time teaching Commerce on Air. Looking forward to seeing you in the next class. Have a wonderful day.